Mei-Ling is considering two bonus schemes offered by her employer. In either case, she plans to leave her money in the deposit account earning 5% per annum. The first option is a single sum of 18,000 to be received today, and the second is a mixed stream of payment given at the beginning of each year as follows. By using a timeline, what is the future value of the lump sum at the end of 5 years? Question states, the first option is a single sum of 18K to be received today. So look at timeline here. Today we receive 18K, so we'll be at T equals to 0. And we're finding future value at end of 5 years. So the future value of lump sum equals to FV equals to PV times FVIF 5% and 5. So refer to the FVIF table. So we know the K is 5% and N is 5. So the figure we're looking at is 1.276. So 1.276, we substitute this figure into the equation and get an answer of 22968. What is the future value of the mixed stream at the end of 5 years? Hint, calculate the future value of each cash flow and then sum all 5 future values. So this is the table given to us. It's important to take note that this is at the beginning of the year. Usually you have done question at the end of the year. This is at the beginning of the year. The workings and answers will be different. So look at timeline here of year 1. So for the whole period of year 1, the beginning period is at T equals to 0. At end of year 1 will be at T equals to 1. So at the beginning of the year will be here at T equals 0, and 2000 will be collected at T equals to 0. That is today. Let's move on to other years. The beginning of year 2 will be equals to T equals to 1. Beginning of year 3 will be at T equals to 2. Beginning of year 4 will be T equals to 3. And beginning of year 5 will be T equals to 4. So money will be collected in the cash flow will be in this according to this timeline. Let's look at year 1, beginning of year 1. $2,000 at the beginning of year 1. We are trying to find the future value of $2,000 at the end of year 5. So there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 years. 5 periods. So n equals to 5. So bring it down. We know that the k is 5% and n is 5. Let's refer to the FVIF table. This extract of the FVIF table. So k is 5% and n is 5. So the value we're looking at is 1.276. Remember this figure? Okay. The figures we've taken from the FVIF table is 1.276. Substitute this figure in. So basically, the answer we find is 2000 times 1.276 equals to 2,552. This will be the future value. This is for the future value for $2,000 at year one, beginning of year one. Next, we move on to beginning of year two, $3,000. Same thing. One would find the future value at end of year five. So the number of period will be 1, 2, 3, 4. So n equals to 4. Bring that down. So it's 5% and n4. So we'll refer to the FVIF table again. We know that K is 5% and N is 4. So the figures we're looking at here is 1.216. $1.216 is taken from the FVIF table. Substitute that in. So we have 3,000 times 1.216 gives you 3,648. So this is a future value for the $3,000 at the beginning of year two. Moving on to beginning of year three, $4,000. So we're finding a future value for $4,000 at the end of year five. So period n will be 1, 2, 3. So n is 3. Bring this down with 5%, comma 3. So refer to the FVIF table. So K is 5%, N is 3. And the figure we're looking at is 1.158. We substitute this figure in, equals to 4,000 times 1.158 equals to a future value of 4632. Moving on to beginning of year four, $5,000. We want to find the future value at the end of year five. So we find out what's n? 1, 2. So n equals to 2. Bring that down. So it's 5%, comma, n is 2. Refer to FVIF table. We know that K is 5%, N is 2. So we're looking at figures 1.103. We substitute this figure from the table, FVIF table. Okay, so it's 5,000 times 1.103 gives you a future value of 5515. Let's move on to beginning of year 5, $6,000. So we'll find the future value of $6,000 at end of year 5. Let's find n. It's 1, so n equals to 1. Bring that down, so it's 5%, comma 1. Let's refer to FVIF table. So K is 5% and N is 1. We're looking at this figure 1.050. substitute the figures from the FVIF table. So it's equal to 6,000 times 1.050 gives you 6,300, which is the future value. Now we have the future value of individual cash flow. Let's add up all up together. Okay, we'll find a total value of 22,647. This is the total sum, okay, for all the future value. Please spend a moment to look at this part of the answer. Which alternative should Mei Ling choose, assuming that she intends to stay with the company for at least the next 5 years? Choose first option, as lump sum gives a higher future value compared to mixed stream. This is despite mixed stream cash flow totaling 20k, ignoring time value, versus the lump sum of 18k.